What is going on, everyone? It's your boy, back with an unexpected video, to say the least. In this recent week, to start off the year of 2020, which is already looking bad due to the reports of, things like Billie Eilish singing the next James Bond song, or a new Coldplay tour, or apparently Megadeth's making new music, and so is Pearl Jam. A lot of shitty things are going to happen this year. But I think the worst thing that'll happen this year, unless something godforsakenly worse happens, let's hope that it doesn't happen, is that we lost one of the greatest minds in the history of music, and that is Neil Peart of Rush. Rush was one of the first bands that I ever got into. I'm not gonna lie to you right now. They were one of my inspirations, as I soon got into music, and they exposed me to bands like Iron Maiden and Judas Priest and Black Sabbath. They had allowed me to dig deeper into bands like Led Zeppelin and Rainbow and, Deep Purple, all these old bands from their era. And I think my liking of them is what really got me into liking prog music so much, because progressive metal, progressive rock is probably my favorite type of both rock and metal is progressive. And I think that's got to do with Rush. The band is phenomenal. Geddy Lee's one of the best bass players of all time, I'd say, only behind Les Claypool and Steve Harris. I mean, this is a video for another day. Alex Lifeson's criminally underrated when it comes to playing the guitar, but I mean, it all comes down to Neil Peart. Behind the drums, writing the lyrics, composing these songs. I mean, the dude was a fucking mastermind. Okay? Nothing could get by that man as being unacceptable or barely good enough to cross it. No, he made sure that his songs were crafted perfectly. He made sure that his songs were just masterpieces, They never put out stuff that was like, it's done, it's okay, it's out there, let's release it. No, he only put out music that he thought acceptable. And that's why I would say Rush has one of the best catalogs of any band spanning multiple decades. You can say bands have good catalogs like Tool or Rage Against the Machine or King Crimson, bands that don't have much output. But when it comes to a band starting in 1972 and going all the way up to their most recent record in 2011, nobody was as consistent. And a lot of people stopped knowing the music after albums like Moving Pictures, albums like Power Windows, but their catalog goes so much deeper than that. Kind of lost for words for this. And I've had a couple of days to think about how I was going to pay tribute to Neil Peart. I can obviously not play the drums anywhere as great, anywhere as pristine as he could. I can't write for shit. So I just thought it was acceptable to look back at some of the great songs put out by Rush. This isn't a ranking. These aren't in any specific order. These are just some of my favorite Rush songs that I think you should know. And that's starting off with this first one, and that is the song Camera Eye. Now, the album Moving Pictures had so many hits. We're talking Red Barchetta, Limelight, we're talking YYZ, Tom Sawyer. I mean, this album was stacked. And in the back half comes the most underrated tracks, and I'm talking Vital Signs, I'm talking Witch Hunt Part 2, and Camera Eye. These three tracks round off a really, really well-constructed album, one of the best of the mid-'80s. And Camera Eye, over 10 minutes long, is the really only prog song that appears on this record, had you argued not YYZ. That's just a different piece of composition altogether. But this song just has riffs on it that are just filthy. I mean, this thing has just some keyboards that are flying and that are soaring above your head like you couldn't fucking believe. I mean, this song is without a doubt one of my favorites when it comes to their lengthy songs, apart from songs like 2112. I'm talking songs like La Villa Strangiato or the Cygnus parts. This song really flies under people's radars when it comes to Rush, and it's very upsetting because this track has so much to offer on an album that is already giving you 5 or 6 good songs before you get to this 10-minute epic track. Up next is a song that is very close to my heart. I keep it the closest to my heart. And it's not the song Closer to the Heart. I'm sorry, it's just not. It's actually the song Manhattan Project, which comes off of the album Power Windows, featured behind me here. What I think is the most underrated Rush album. Manhattan Project, clocking in just a little over 5 minutes. It provides you with these thumping bass. The bass pedal on this song just is pounding the side of your head. You can hear each individual pedal, even if it's triplets or it's doubles. You can hear each individual one just as distinct as the last one. And it comes with this magnificent bridge. Geddy's voice on this song, oh my god, is phenomenal. This song you can tell was constructed in a very lengthy amount of time, in not a short time, I'll say that. The Manhattan Project, obviously, what is it about? The creating of the atomic bomb. That's why the lyrics on here are so wonderful. You feel like you were there. You feel like you were getting an insight of what it was like to be around when the atomic weapons were created. So, definitely the Manhattan Project is another song that I think flies way under the radar. Up next, we have the absolutely epic Fountain of Lammonth. This song hits hard. It is off of to what people think is the worst Rush album of the 70s and 80s era, Caress of Steel, where I would argue that is not true. That album is phenomenal. To be honest, my least favorite album is their self-titled album, but one day I'm going to rank all their albums from worst to best. We'll get there one day, but for now we're here to talk about the Fountain of Lammonth, which was a gateway for me. The first time I had heard this track, and the first time I heard it, I thought, songs like 2112, how many 20-minute songs are there out there? 3, maybe? At the time, I was a young boy. I was not aware of songs like Dope Smoker or Station to Station. I wasn't aware of songs like that. So, when I had heard this, I was like, they have another one. And this song I actually like more than 2112. This song opened me up to the world of progressive music. This song was my way into liking one of my favorite bands now, probably my top 5 favorite, Between the Buried and Me. A big song that their lead singer Tommy Rogers has said on numerous occasions has been one of his favorites. It opened me into this world of progressive music, because this song clocks in at just 3 seconds under 20 minutes. And God, does it keep you hooked the whole time. The acoustic intro just gets you like, okay, where is this going to take me? And, by the end of it, you had heard 4 or 5 hard-hitting, heavy metal riffs that are really just a splash of what Neil Peart has to offer. Just an explosion of his mind at full capacity. The next song I'd like to share with everyone is one of my favorites, is By Tor and the Snow Dog, a song off of Rush's critically acclaimed Fly By Night album. This album was already packed with songs like Anthem and the title track. But when you get this 8-minute monster thrown in there, and honestly it doesn't feel like 8 minutes, when you hear that intro, and then you hear Geddy Lee's voice just starting, telling the story of the character on the album cover, it's just powerful. If you turn that song all the way up on a pair of headphones, it just feels like you're transcending into this different world. It really feels like you're not listening to music as much as you are experiencing a movement or experiencing a novel in played format. It's hard to explain because this track is just so well thought out. And there's not really much else I have to say about that other than it's just a masterpiece. It is very slept on, I will tell you that right now, on a great record. Definitely go check that one out. And the last song I would like to talk about is kind of like a swan song for the band, and that is The Garden, which comes off of Clockwork Angels, the band's most recent output, and honestly one of my favorites. When it comes to 70s and 80s bands putting out 2010s records, the only two that I like more than this record behind me are The Book of Souls, Iron Maiden, and Firepower by Judas Priest, and even then, Clockwork Angels is very, very close for me. I mean, this last song, The Garden, starts with this build of just acoustic and keyboard, and then we get some drum hits, we get some bass little flicks. The song builds up to around its 3-minute mark, where right before the crescendo of the song, it brings you back down into this kind of psychedelic interlude before the song breaks into the guitar solo in kind of a very Pink Floyd-esque manner. You can tell where the inspirations were for this song, and it kind of feels like a appropriate goodbye for the band. We know they would not put out anything after this. They would tour a couple of times, but this kind of feels like their last song that they had ever released. And this is 40 years after their first record comes out, and it is just as good, and like I said, I think better than their first record. The songs on here, let's talk about the album itself. You have songs like Caravan, the title track Clockwork Angels. This record has a lot of things going for it that I believe make it one of the greatest swan songs in the history. It's not technically a swan song, considering that Neil dies 8 years after its release. The band doesn't officially announce they're done until about 6 or 7 years later. But it just feels appropriate. It feels like an appropriate way to end such a wonderful career. So I think I'm going to end it there with that song, The Garden. Definitely go check out these tracks that I had talked about here. And if you're not a Rush fan, or you had counted them out, or just heard their popular songs, go listen to their deep cuts. This band has albums spanning from 1972, like I said, all the way up to 2011, that will really just make you think differently about music and life itself. And this will open doors for you to get into new bands. There's so much to like about this group of men, these three players that are, in my opinion, one of the greatest bands of all time. Are they in my top 5 favorites? No. But would I put them in the top 5 bands of all time? Without a doubt. Probably top 3, if not top 2. Everything about this band, there just is to like. Even if you're not a big fan of Geddy Lee's voice, you can look past that and get to the wonderful instrumentation. You can get to the wonderful song structure, the production, the lyrics, the meaning behind these songs. So, yeah, I'm going to end it there. Like I said, not a video I had planned making. I do have another one in the works that I'm going to be releasing pretty soon. I'm probably going to go record it, the last bits of it. But stay tuned until then. And again, rest in peace to Neil Peart, one of the greatest minds in the history of music.